up, everybody? It's Justin Conoco from Prime Real Estate. We are here about to do our live market update. So we are streaming on Facebook Live right now. For those of you that haven't caught this live, go to our YouTube channel and you'll be able to follow us there. Also, make sure you hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel because we're always posting our daily videos, the newest listings, as well as the market updates and insights into what's happening, especially out there in the real estate industry. Also have some fun interviews with local businesses and people that are curating amazing things in our community. So we do dabble, obviously, in real estate. That's our main practice, but we're also trying to lift others up in the community that we think are doing good things. On that note, if you guys know anybody in the community that is doing the good things, would make good candidates for long-term interviews, or you really think that they deserve some exposure, feel free to reach out and DM us. We'll get them on our channel. We'll do a long-form interview and expose their business to our audience. And really what we do is bring people together, both when it comes to real estate, but also in life. We're really trying to build the best tribe that we can. So we'd love for your help on that. As far as the real estate statistics go, let's dig right in. So last month, 1,171 homes exchanged hands. Now, if you go to the LSTAR website, that's the London St. Thomas Board of Realtors, right? So their statistics are covering our region. They do divvy it up between London, St. Thomas. We got to keep in mind there are different regions that fall into that may not be directly related to London. Sorry, let me just fix the lighting. So you got to understand how to break those stats down. The second thing is, be careful about headline reading, right? I've covered this in videos before. So when you're reading headlines in the newspaper, what's happened is the real estate transactions, maybe a property was listed, maybe it sold in multiples within the first week of it accepting offers, and then closed 3 weeks later than that. The monthly statistics then go through LSTAR. LSTAR distributes the statistics, then the news picks it up and then republishes it them. So you got to keep in mind that there's usually a 60 to 30 day layover between when the properties are sold, when the data gets processed, and when you're actually reading it. The thing is, when it comes to real estate pricing, and especially when you're listing your own property or you're looking at a comparable to buy, you got to understand what's happening right now. And if an agent comes to give you a price on what your property is worth, and another agent comes 3 weeks later and all of a sudden the prices are $50,000 difference, you should call that first agent back and give them a crack at updating their pricing, mainly because the pricing in the neighborhood may have changed by 20%, or it may be going the other way altogether. And something we've talked about on our daily videos is you don't want to be in a position where you overlist a property, especially in a market like we have right now. So digging into that kind of 30,000 foot view of the London St. Thomas board and what's happening in our market right now, pretty simple. We have really low inventory. There were a lot of bidding wars that happened January till April. It slowed down about May 2-4 weekend. A couple things happened in the Toronto market. There was a bit of a slowdown there that kind of trickled down the highway here. Some mortgage rate increases, and the stress test is definitely affecting buyers that thought they were pre-qualified. So given we still have low inventory, it's still considered a seller's market, but pricing strategy is more important now than it ever was. And people that are over listing properties, they aren't selling in multiples at crazy record-setting prices. But properties that are being underlisted or very competitively priced, they're still getting multiples. I've got one, for example, we could have priced at $450 that we priced at $425, and we've got a number of Form 801s and offers already registered, and I think we're likely going to be looking at 7 to 10 offers tomorrow. So there's a good likelihood it sells for $450, $475, $490, one of those record-setting prices. But the sellers understood the inventory around them, the pricing strategy at the time, and it does make a big difference and a big impact. You just have to be prepared to sit there and wait through that process. But again, you want to work with your sales representative to understand the full scope of it, because there are different types of products and different type of markets. A single family detached isn't necessarily going to be the same as a condo, or specifically if that unit is in a location that it's going to take a special type of buyer for, that could be a challenge that you got to be prepared and strategize and know how to get out ahead of. I'm going to also touch on the headlines that you're going to read on the LSTAR Stats. So LSTAR is great as a board. They are forward thinking. They're some of the best in the industry. And when they do their market stats, they're always looking back and comparing it to previous years and seeing how we've looked this year versus the other year. So they're very clear about, this year we've actually had less monthly sales than we did last year. And last year, month on month, it was record-setting every month. It was the highest number of sales, the biggest increases we've ever seen in the history of the London market. And they did point out in the market update this month that we're slightly lower than that. But it is still a record-setting month in the grand scheme of things when it comes to sales and historical sales over the last 10 years. So just to give you some perspective on what's happening in the London market, you know, last year it went crazy. Some large price increases, especially average price in London, you know, jumped up a good 12%. We're still seeing those increases. It's dialed down a bit. You got to sharpen your sword and know how to strategize a little bit more, but it doesn't seem like it's going to slow down anytime soon. The May stands as the highest ever sales month in LSTAR history of last year. So I think that gives you some perspective on their comparison to last year. The Toronto money, let's go back and touch on that for a second. I just had a buyer agent show one of my properties this morning. They love it. They're going back for a second showing. They got a house in Newmarket that they're going to sell. The confidence level of the sellers isn't necessarily what it was last year. So we're starting to see Toronto agents come in with condition of home sale clauses, which you didn't see as much last year. They were pretty much putting bully offers or offers on property and locking them up without any home sale conditions. So we're going to be watching the Toronto market very closely. Wes Watson, thanks for joining us. We were just talking on Instagram about some other stuff, and he correctly named the Roadrunner car that we posted on Instagram. So you get some extra points, buddy. But I digress. Going back into what I was saying about the Toronto market, we have some amazing contacts all the way down from Hamilton, Kitchener, right to the GTA area that are top in their field. So we'll be leaning on them, maybe even get some of them on our Instagram channel to give you some insights into what's happening in those markets, what they're actually seeing boots on the ground versus what you're reading in the news. As I've said before, stay away from the news. They're not the people you need to be listening to when you're making day-to-day decisions. As far as a market crash overall, I talk to people in all industries. I talk to investors, I talk to lenders, real estate agents, people that own businesses. The consensus that I've heard is they think there's a recession coming in 2020. And I'm not the type of guy that always just sits out here saying, everything's amazing, keep buying real estate, you know, we can forecast this for as long as we want. There's never ever gonna be a dip in the price. We're the actual opposite of that. We always operate on a conservative basis, and our model, especially when it comes to our investors and buying investment properties, is making sure that we have a pro forma that works regardless of what's happening big picture in the marketplace. Now, we always forecast for growth, and we do plan to add value and everything else. That's a separate video altogether, but I'm just telling people that you want to be conservative, right? Don't overpay for property now because you make your money when you buy. You know, plan that, you know, things may not be amazing forever, and act accordingly, right? Now, that said, if you have a beautiful property in an area where you're getting record-setting prices and you have so much equity in it, maybe you do want to sell it. But if you're looking to buy, look at all of your options. Look at the different markets in and around London that are growing very quickly. Take a look at your Lukens, your Ildertons, St. Thomas. We're seeing St. Thomas value jump and some good value down there too. So the other thing is, on the investment side of things, I did want to touch on, we're starting to see some cap rate compressions. So a little investment tip for you guys out there. If you want to run a quick analysis on a property, take the overall income minus the expenses divided by the purchase price. That's going to give you what's called a cap rate. And different markets, you can run cap rates to see what stuff is selling for. Investors love to buy 7 to 9 cap rates. Sellers love to sell 3 to 4 cap rates. Depending on where you're financing at, once you get under that, 4.5 mark, the numbers aren't working as much, and we're really starting to see some cap rate compression in London. And especially on the commercial side, there's not much inventory. It's very competitive. London's a growing market. I was reading a research report nationally on how the commercial real estate market's doing in Canada. It's very healthy. So it's something that it's good to keep an eye on too, but you don't want to rush into something headlong without understanding the full scope of your investment. There's a lot of vacant space still for lease in the commercial market as well too. So be very aware if you have a business and you're up for renewal or up for lease. There's a lot of leverage to be had, and make sure you have a tenant rep on your side. Don't go directly to the landlord. Don't necessarily work directly with the landlord's rep unless you have a pre-existing relationship with them and they're really giving you a deal that makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, we've done a number of tenant reps in the last 6 months where we've saved over 6 figures for our tenants over and over and over. And it's, again, just understanding the nature of the leverage, the marketplace, the options that are available to you. And I will say something, the commercial real estate market does a terrible job about keeping the inventory updated. A lot of the stuff that you see online is either leased, not available, the pricing's changed. It's a funny business that way, right? A lot of the agents in the business are dynamic and they're amazing to deal with. So I'm not knocking the commercial real estate industry. It's just the translation of information. The property owners just physically don't have the time to update a lot of the spaces that are available. There's a lot of spaces that don't show up online that become available. We just dealt with the sublease. I sent the final paperwork this morning. and it's probably one of the better deals in the city. But again, you may not have known about it just because of the access to information. Again, I'm going to point out these videos aren't meant for us at all. I'm just trying to educate the marketplace. You're welcome to use whoever you want. A lot of people don't even know that the tenant rep agent is out there, but no different than when you're going to buy a house and you call an agent to act on your behalf and there's zero cost to you. Do the same thing when you're renegotiating your lease. Don't waste your own time going out and trying to negotiate the lease yourself and dig into the legal language and whatnot. Just get somebody to act on your behalf. Their fees paid by for the landlord and should be free to you. The investment properties, the one other thing I'm going to note is I've seen a lot of investment properties that have been sold over the last year come back on the market deemed not legal anymore. Mike Kettle, what's up, buddy? I was just talking about an amazing real estate agent that I know in Hamilton, and that's him. So anybody want to go like his Facebook page right now? They're the guys that really have the insights into the happenings in their marketplace. But going back to the investment properties that I was just talking about, there's a lot of inventory, and I've been preaching this on the Closers Daily and on our videos over the last 6 months, that's being sold as legal because it has an actual license on it. But whenever you transfer ownership of an investment property in London now, it's going to trigger a new inspection. So a lot of those triplexes, fourplexes, duplexes are getting shut down as what they were. And if all of a sudden you were going to buy a triplex and say you were paying, I don't know, say $100,000 a unit, so you paid 300 grand and it becomes a duplex, it's now worth 200 grand. So you just lost a pile of money. So make sure you know what you're buying. Let's talk about the Huron Coast market. So we do cover the Grand Bend, Bayfield, and Huron Coast. So if anybody has any interest up there, it is very active compared to how it's been historically. I've been mentioning over the last year or so that the average days on market's dropped. Everything was selling in multiples. There was a bit of a dip in the marketplace around May 24th. Things got a little bit quiet. It's starting to heat up again. Our project at Rice Developments, the new construction behind Sobeys, phase 2 is pretty much wrapped up. We have 2 models that are still for sale and 2 lots left, and then we're launching another 60 lots and a new project of semis that's about to hit the market as well. So things are still booming in Grand Bend. It just fluctuates with a lot of the long weekends. So we'll see a lot of activity right up to Canada Day. It'll get quiet for a week as everybody goes on vacation, and then it'll pick up again and then quiet down around Labor Day. And a lot of properties will trade hands over the winter time because people aren't actually using them as much. They're easier to show. There's some great opportunities up there. I'll make a note. Actually, we got one at 83 Tile Street. Amazing potential for a double lot when they do a service expansion down there. We've got it for $1,165,000. But if you had to buy those 2 lots individually, you'd probably be paying $750 a lot. It's waterfront, one of the best beaches I've seen, and that's key. But again, I could talk about the Huron Coast for an hour. I won't. Going back down to St. Thomas, they only saw 100 homes sell last month, and inventory, there's 82 active listings. So still good activity in comparison to London. I mean, they're probably doing about 10% of the volume that we're seeing in London, but good pricing, good rents. From an investment perspective, definitely a good market to keep an eye on. I'm going to wrap this up for now. I'm going to shoot a second part of the video that goes to our preferred investors list, just a separate group. But if you guys ever have any questions, feel free to let us know. I want some suggestions on people in our community that you think are doing good things. Put it in the comments below. Hit that like button. And I'm going to end this, as I usually do, with a book recommendation. And I'm going to reach back out to Gary Vee. So the Thank You Economy. Gary Vee's popped off. A lot of people know him through YouTube. A lot of people think he's brash, abrasive, may not actually understand the nature of what the man actually is. But I saw him on a video from a RE/MAX conference. I think it was 2008. So I've been following him for a long time. This is one of his original books. It's called The Thank You Economy. And the premise of this book is that we're going back to a market nowadays that gets away from advertising, right? So we grew up at a time where a lot of the big box stores opened up, you know, the Walmarts, the Wendy's, the McDonald's. It was the colors that they were using, the smells they were putting in the air. It was everything about gamifying, getting our attention and getting people to buy our product. Where our grandparents lived in a day when you knew the guy that made your shoes. You knew the guy that was your butcher. And really, it was an economy based on thankfulness between parties and people doing good business. And it's my belief that we're going back to that we're going back to a day where all this technology, all of the access to information, the tribe building that people are doing, the community building, and that, you know, knowing your neighbor and knowing the people you're doing business with and getting away from the big box stores and supporting your local community. That's coming back in a big way. So buy The Thank You Economy, tag Gary Vee, tell him that I told you to buy the book as well too, and give him props for it. After you read it, I promise it'll give you a big paradigm shift. Thank you for your attention as always. Justin Conoco from Prime Real Estate leaving you again for this market update. We'll see you guys in a month, and I'm sure a whole bunch in between. Take care.